Begin transmission.
This program is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised.
Well, hello everybody. It's good to see y'all here. We had quite a night last night. I got to say it was just crazy as all get out. Let's see who all we got in the house today. Mr. Home Arcade came in at about 9:27 a.m. He wants to look at that Moaty. We're going to get to it in just a minute, guys. Let's see who else. So Shambolics, Bjorn Jorgensen, good to see you, sir. The Nolan's in the house. Good to see you, Nolan. Gojitron, he's at work, but he's going to listen here at Sunny and the Boss ain't here. Good to see you there, Carl. Sue Studio's in the house. Good to see you, hon. Let's see if we got everybody here. Shaitan's Hammer, good to see you. Shaitan, good to see you. I think I got everybody caught up. A few more may pop in from time to time. We'll catch them when we can. Real quick, let's do our shout outs. I usually do by Patreons. Grindhead Jim Largo, Pope, Masters Maniac Mexico, that would be Rolo, Will McLaughlin, Bjorn Jorgensen, Johnny Sorensen, and Ocean Breed Salty. Thank you for helping support this channel. We appreciate that. And Everything's Plastic Collectibles and Reviews is here. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you. And let me pull me back up here and get Largo in the house. What's going on, Jim Largo?
Good afternoon. Another beautiful day. Goji,
man,
I think he nailed it. It's all about the Helen Reddy.
Yeah. Well, actually, I played that twice. Did I not?
You did. I don't think anybody complained about that as far as the YouTube bots.
I got one for you. The first instance where I played it did not get dinged, but the second one did.
Oh, really? Interesting. I don't understand how all that algorithm stuff works.
YouTube is broken. YouTube is broken. Whatever those little spidery bots are that go out and look at your shit and decide whether it's all broke. But yeah, we had a night. Did you get any rest? Because I got none. I have had zero sleep.
It's like my drill sergeant used to say, "You'll sleep when you're dead. Get your work done."
Sleep's for turtles.
You know that in those Harry Potter movies, how they have the what are those? Like they have the critters that work in the bank. You know, the little goblins. That's what I kind of think of as going on behind the scenes at YouTube. They've got those little goblins back there looking at everybody's stuff and dinging them when they get out of line.
Something's going on over there, and it's nefarious, whatever it is, but it's messed up. But yeah, I get it. So, so Shogun Assassin was what got us. If you watch the restream from last night, at the point where we came back, we were confused. We had no idea exactly what had happened. We were conjecturing over what happened. It wasn't until I took the video off private and went ahead and let the checks complete once again that it blocked the thing worldwide at that point. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't see that I'd made a video after I published it. Excuse me, and the checks went through.
Yeah, Gojitron was saying the same thing with anything related to Godzilla because Toho is
It's
very
Toho.
protective.
Toho is very, very, very protective of their of whatever properties that they have under their control. That's absolutely true. He was telling me that even Godzilla movie reviews can get dinged sometimes by Toho. But yeah, I went in and I clipped out the offending section,
Mm-hmm.
and that meant the video had to reprocess. Well, that takes about 2 hours when even if you cut just a small bit out. I don't know why it takes so long to reprocess if you use the cutting tools that YouTube gives you.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's correct, Shaitan. They're very, very strict. But yeah, anyway, so while that was processing, I went ahead and cut this morning's video that I throwed up. I think it was probably about 3:30 or 4 o'clock when I put that thing up. But
Right.
yeah, I cut that together right quick and throw it up there to give an explanation. And the reason I did that was because I knew I had gotten that movie trailer right straight off of a YouTube channel, and I'm like, okay, let's see if they got dinged for putting it up there. No, they put it up there 8 years ago, and it's been sitting there all these 8 years in full HD, mind you, people, and nobody has said a word to them. It hasn't gotten struck or anything. Conjecture over on another network that I'm on was that, hey, well, maybe they had the rights to do that from Toho, or
I
they
wouldn't
didn't
think
know
so.
Toho was. No, you don't. If you're in my position or your position, Largo, you don't get rights from Toho because Toho wants the like millions of dollars from you to be able to use their stuff. So, no,
Yeah.
I'm sure that
Well, it's like
some
I can
YouTubers.
yeah. I'm all protecting your intellectual property. I don't believe in going on the high seas too much and doing silly things. But if you put out a
No,
trailer for a movie, then you're saying, hey, I want you to watch this thing. And then if you show a trailer from a
basically,
movie, you're not
basically,
showing the movie. You're just showing the
you're
clips.
giving them a free commercial on your show when you do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
And
agree. And so I'm kind of
that,
curious why they would ding something like that, especially if it's an old
well,
movie that's been out for a while.
some things they don't care. We've experienced that here in the toy community. I think our buddy Wilhelm Toy and Hobby has experienced this. He was on Facebook. He saw some pictures of an upcoming set with a Batwing and Batman and Flash in it from the upcoming Flash movie that may or may not ever drop. And he
Yep.
said, "Well, I'm going to show these on my next stream when I stream." And he showed them on his stream. And damned if he didn't get a cease and desist. You need to take those down. We don't want those up. So he had to take them down.
Yeah, they have these weird toy embargoes. It's like, sometimes they'll put things out a little early, or people will get images. And I can kind of understand they don't want to get stuff out if it's attached to a movie that the toy may be like a spoiler because of what it is. It's spoiling something that's in the film. But at least with what I heard with what happened with Wilhelm, they were very polite about it. They're like, if you would just not
They
put that up
were.
right
They did.
now.
Well, they didn't do like Andy. What happened to Andy's Dinos over there? You heard about that, didn't you? Andy's
No.
Dinos.
Yeah, that was
Andy's
Mattel. Mattel don't
Dinos. The
play.
guy who run it. Yeah, yeah. He bought those legitimately from an outlet. They weren't supposed to
Yes,
sell them to him, but he got them. He spent his
and
money.
he
They
didn't know
sent them
that.
to him. He
Hmm.
had no idea. So he's just a YouTuber like me. All right. So what do I do when I get my latest mail call? I run in here and make a
I
video, mail call
Yeah,
video. Look what I got in the mail. And they took his channel down. They deplatformed the man.
yeah, it was pretty bad. And fortunately, there were some advocates like Retro Blasting and others that got on and said, "Hey, that's not right." And then they kind of rescinded some of that lawyer speak they threw at him.
Yeah, and I'm Carl says there. I tried to make a video with my favorite cartoon intros that were all on YouTube already,
Hmm.
and the video had more strikes than the World Series. Yeah, I was talking to Super John over at the Super Awesome Geek Show this morning. Super John was telling me, he can show the intros to like the Silverhawks. Nobody gives a damn. He can show the intros to that Tiger, whatever it was, thing that was in the same universe, and that cartoon show.
Thundercats.
Nobody says a word. Well, oh, show the Thundercats intro, and ding, 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 dang, dong. They're ready to strike you with the hammer. But he
Really?
said if you show it in 5 second intervals or something like that, you show 5 seconds, then wait a minute, show 5 more seconds, then wait a minute, then show 5 more seconds, then wait a minute. You can do it that way, break it up. I think Susudio was trying to explain that to me last night, and she is in the stream.
That is
She says she's
peculiar.
delayed echo. I'm not hearing it here. If Largo was hearing it, he would tell me. Apparently, there's something going on your end. You've got two things open at once, or a speaker is picking up a microphone, or something like that.
Now
Check.
I do hear some. I'm hearing some voices in my head, but those are always there. And Eduardo, I hear him too. I don't know if you guys are picking him up this morning or afternoon.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I should. I hear Eduardo.
Yep.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah. If you split them up into little bitty intervals like that, it falls under fair use because you're not using enough of it to trigger the bot or whatever the spider is.
Oh, okay, tiger sharks. That's the
Shark
other one
shape.
that was in that. I'd forgotten about tiger sharks.
I remember. I vaguely remember. Yeah, I vaguely remember Hawks. I remember the Thundercats. I didn't even know that there were such things as tiger sharks. But yeah,
Do you remember there was another
Studio says
kind
she's
of
noticing it
oddball?
more on me.
Yeah, you're
I
kind of a little lag on your end, Bill.
is it lagging
Like
or am I echoing?
It seems like more of a lag from what I'm seeing, but that could be my internet's a little goofy today.
No, a lot of that has to do with my setup here. I mean, I've got my setup is running on spit baling wire and a hamster wheel, but
A little bit of chewing gum to hold it all together.
yeah. You got to have something to hold it together, and of course, I'm not fancy like Largo is. I mean, I could get that way. I've got them over here. I could put the headphones on and go that
Oh,
way, and
it's
I've
all
done it
smoke
in
and
the
mirrors,
past.
man. It looks like it's all together here, but if you saw this side of the layer, it's chaos. So
All right, she says I'm breaking up. Rest of the chat, Bjorn Jorgensen is the one that can tell me. Bjorn, am I 5x5 or am I like 0x0? Largo's head voices are all roosters. Usually when I'm breaking up like that, Largo can tell on his end. He can tell me that I'm breaking up.
your audio sounds fine, but there is a little bit of a lag now and then. Maybe because your
Yeah.
computer's working on something.
Well, I've got everything turned off when it needs a restart. To be honest with you, and the Epicam looks good, but there's this tiny little lag in there between my voice and when I move my mouth. Kind of disturbing, but it's there. Uh, and it might have to do with the fact that I'm using a virtual cam instead of going directly into StreamYards with my cam software and working the virtual cam on OBS. OBS allows me to do this stuff.
All the overlays and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's not
So
as
that-
bad as
that-
some
that-
of those old Japanese kung fu or some of those what they call them, the Hong Kong cinema, where they dub it badly in English and it was
My kung
obviously
fu
in
is
a different
better than
language.
Your kung fu.
Exactly.
Now, Bo says I'm back in sync now. Okay, so maybe I was out of sync. I don't know.
You were in a boy band. You were in NSYNC.
Hello, Eduardo.
No, I'm kidding. Eduardo's around.
But anyway, I've lost my train of thought now. But anyway, yeah.
Let's talk about Moaty. I want to see Moaty.
Oh, let me see if I can get the toy cam going here. Take a second to get that sucker fired up.
They didn't come here to see us, Bill. They came here to see the Moat Monster.
Is that what they're saying in the chat?
No, but I'm just speculating.
Your speculation is probably going to be spot on correct. All right, here we go. And there he is in all of his glory.
Per pretty.
That is Moaty the Monster. Right
he sure
there.
Does have a pretty mouth. Mm-hmm. Now his mouth is articulated too.
Yes, it is. This is a fully articulated figure that's been 3D printed by a fellow in Argentina who has an eBay store. And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Home Arcade has one of these, and it's been featured on his channel.
Okay.
Let's get him up close here. His jaw moves.
Nice.
The fellow paints them, so I didn't have to paint any of this. This came already pre-painted like this. His legs are articulated, as you can see. It's not a lot of articulation there, but it doesn't have to be. I'm surprised that there's any at all. Usually 3D prints are statues, so there's
That's
articulation
true.
there. So
I don't even collect Origins, and I want one of those just for to put with my monsters. He'd make a good pet monster for some of my other critters.
Well, you know, when the Eternia playset was being crowdfunded, Moaty the Moat Monster kind of gained a life of his own in that, and became kind of it was an ongoing meme. Free Moaty the Moat Monster. He got named Moaty the Moat Monster. Moaty is possibly the critter of the year. I agree with that, Nolan. The
last
train
year
of
was
thought
Fiona.
Yeah. Thank you, Jesse. Bjorn, you came to the wrong place if you came for overpriced statues. You need to check out Toy Grinds tomorrow. I'm sure when comes back on with Toy Grinds, he's got plenty of statues for you, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. When I saw that Moaty the Moat Monster on Mr. Home Arcade's channel, I thought, well, that's what everybody wants out of the Eternia playset anyway. They could care less about all the playset and all that. They just want the damn Moat Monster. And I know the Moat Monster is going to be worth a hell of a lot of money. I think it's going to be worth more than the playset and King Grayskull put together, in my opinion. So
maybe
I snapped it up now. I'm going to tell you guys this. I've talked about dealing with customizers in the past. When you find a customizer work like this right here, this is doing a Zodak chair. I wish I had the money to buy it. It would cost me $30 for the chair and $30 shipping, $60 to get Zodak's chair.
It's a little spin.
By God, I'm going to save my money and get it. And hopefully he's still in business by the time it's over. Because this guy's not going to be in business this time next year.
Well, Gojitron just gave us a very interesting fact. The Snake Mountain, that moat that's around there, is entirely made of hot lava and Clamato.
Well, I thought it was blood, but I guess Clamato is better than blood. But Grindhead Jim may disagree on.
Now, do you have a little
likes any creature?
Something?
Okay, but yeah,
I was gonna say, you have a little something to show us on Snake Mountain today too.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we were talking about the Blood Falls, and there it is, coming down Snake Mountain right there. That is not Will's 3D printed Blood Falls. It's the same STL file, but this guy in Argentina sells the Blood Falls as well, and it's at a reasonable price, about $15. But you're going to spend another 15 to 30 in shipping to ship this stuff from Argentina.
Well, that really dresses it up, though, because it covers where the hinge is.
Yeah, and it fits fairly well in there. I mean, it's not like it's like a glove fit or anything, but it doesn't have to be, especially for photography. It does a well enough job, and it's pretty sturdy. I mean, I could probably take it and break it if I wanted to, but I could print it too.
Now, is that made of
so I
resin?
mean, it's fairly sturdy,
resin
and it
print?
comes pre-painted. I think it's Moaty feels more like resin, but it may just be PLA. I can't really tell. I think Moaty has been painted with resin, and then put under a UV light, which takes some of those lines out of it. I've seen Hebrew do that. I've seen he'll paint the resin on them, and then he'll get his black light out. He'll get those UV rays on there, and that sets that resin.
Okay.
And they may have done the same thing with maybe PLA.
Hmm. Well, it is interesting. I'm always fascinated when Wilhelm tells me about some of the 3D printing stuff that he's looking into because people are doing some neat stuff with that. It's come a long way.
Speaking of stuff that we have here, I also had a mail call where I got some accessories for Eric, Son of Thunder. There, I've got. He's got his tomahawk in his hand. He's wearing his vest and his loincloth. And
Nice.
behind his loincloth, he's got his knife there, back here in the back. I
Oh
don't know if you
yeah.
can see there.
Well, speaking of
Uh,
mail call, there's an exceptional mail in the chat here. We've got Brick something dropped in. Ask how it's going there, Bill.
hey, what's going on, Brick? Something good to see you, man. I haven't seen you in a while. It's going good, man. It's going good. Uh, yeah, I got all that stuff there, and I went ahead and put it on the vintage figure that I had. That's going. I guess what I look at when I'm starting to make my custom of that. But I can't
Mm-hmm.
really do anything except just put together the book until Lee casts that head in resin and makes me an
Right.
Origins head for him.
Nolan had a good idea with that lava flow. He said if you could do it in like a translucent plastic, that might be good because that way you could put a light in it
Yeah,
or
you can
something.
put light behind it. Yeah. Well, see, everybody says it's a lava falls. And everybody says it's lava falls. But everything I've ever read said it's a blood falls. If you go over to the Gray Skull Wiki, it says it's a blood falls. If you
Is
look
it
at
mentioned
the
by name in any
Filmation
of the
Bible,
mini comics or anything?
no, not that
Okay.
I can remember. I mean, I don't know them all by heart. Generally speaking, and of course I'm kind of letting you guys look behind the camera when I say this. Generally speaking, on any subject, I'm not an expert, but before I go on camera and talk about it in a video, I'll read up on as much of it as I possibly can to bring myself up to speed. So no, I don't know all of the lore by heart. I know a lot of the original lore by heart, and Snake Mountain was not part of the original lore.
Right. Yeah, because that
I
that
think
just
the
came
closest
about as
the
something
closest
in
we
the.
got the closest we got to Skeletor's hideout was deep within Skeletor's mountain lair, and that was
Right. Now,
in the Power of Point Dread.
yeah, which came first, Snake Mountain or the Filmation cartoon?
Filmation cartoon had a Snake Mountain in it, and
Mm-hmm.
when Mattel saw them do that Snake Mountain, they said, "Okay, we can do Snake Mountain too." And they took two ideas that they already had. They took a prototype for He-Man's Jungle playset, and they combined it with a vehicle for the Evil Warriors that was going to be very similar to the Dragon Walker, that had that face on it, as you can see there. That face
Oh,
came
okay.
off of that vehicle, and so they combined those two ideas together and come up with a Snake Mountain. And the snake that you see up there was a giant python to attack He-Man in the Jungle playset. So they thought, well, there's the snake. We can turn this into Snake Mountain, and that's kind of what they did. So
Hmm.
that's why the playset never looked anything like the cartoon.
Right.
Oh, I guess I'm out of sync, or someone's out of sync here, watching one of those old Japanese movies.
Yeah, I think your internet is
Maybe
a little
we're our
rough.
mouths are not moving our voices. My internet's got one bar on it. That's true. Shaitan says he trusts Bill's histories. Well, thank you, sir. I try my best to try to be correct. Now, that doesn't mean I'm always correct. Sometimes I get corrected. Gojitron will correct me sometimes when it's something that I'm not really up on. But as far as this goes, I've been researching this like a I don't know what ever since I started working on the Snake Mountain. I was
Yep.
Yeah, I'm working on cutting a video for that, and I don't have anything shot yet. I'm still in the process of researching that, and I've already been warned by somebody that I trust dearly not to release that until after the new Origins version of Snake Mountain comes out, because I get more views that way.
Okay.
And yeah,
Well, yeah.
I'm after views. I'm after views, and I'm after subscriptions. I've got. Last I looked, I'm at 617
Okay.
subscribers. So
Yes, like
I'm
with that
still
Remco
grinding. I'm
line,
not.
I vaguely remember that Remco line being on the shelf for it seemed like a hot minute. It's like it was there for one season. And I knew who Warlord was. I'd seen him in the comic books, but I wasn't familiar with any of the other figures that they made in that line.
Yeah,
I mean, I
I
knew who
dropped a video
Hercules was, but I
recently
didn't know
about
anything about the DC
Hercules.
Comics version of Hercules. Mm-hmm.
Right. I dropped a video recently on Hercules, and I'm going to drop one on Eric, but I want to have my figure complete, my Origins version figure completed when I actually drop that video. So, how long that's going to take, that's no telling. I'm dealing with another customizer. Lee, I love you, but I understand that your time is just great like that. The lag time between the idea and the finished product when it comes to customizers can be very great. And
Sure.
once again,
Well, you could always put out a video build
this
talking
guy in
about the
Argentina,
character
he's doing.
and the.
Not going to be
I'm
here
sorry,
next.
we're talking over each other because there's a lag time there. So the Eric that you have, no, it's just the technology today is goofing with us. So the Eric that you have is an original Remco, and you've added some accessories. You could go ahead and do the video, talk about the character and the original Remco, and then do a like an update when you get your custom put together. If it'll take a while, because I think folks would like to know more about this character. He's kind of interesting.
He is. He's very interesting considering the fact that he is a Native American, but he's spending most of his time in Europe, living with Vikings, and then hanging out in the court of Carolus Magnus, better known as Charlemagne. And thank you, Nolan Briggs. On the Shading Hammer. It's always perplexed me when the entertainment was so different from the toys, and then there's lots of reasons for that. I mean, some cartoon shows you just can't make into a toy, so you have to make it into the best thing that you can. In this case, it was a matter of, look, we're not going to do all new tooling when we've got this tooling here already made. We're going to modify this and use it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it back in the early days too, what they could do with the animation when they were doing a cartoon, if there was a tie-in with a toy, sometimes the toy manufacturer just didn't have the technology to make it the way they wanted to or the way that it looked on screen. So they just did the best they could. And then sometimes we had toys that came on long after the cartoon had come and gone, and sometimes those were more accurate.
Well, and people wonder, they say, well, why did the 3 3/4 inch Star Wars figures' faces not exactly resemble the characters? Well, because that was one way of getting around another rights issue. The actor owns the rights to his business, and you have to pay him royalties on that. But if you make, say, in the Jurassic Park Kenner line from way back then, if you make the figures look vaguely sort of maybe like the character but nothing like the actor, then you get away with skipping that part.
That makes sense.
Let's see what Shaitan's Hammer says here. I had Warlord and all that, good thing, but none articulated barbarian body slipped into the public domain in the 80s. Yeah, it is a good thing that happened. That happened directly because of Mattel. They thought they owned the rights to a man standing in a wrestling stance because of He-Man, and they got knocked down for that. They said, no, you can't copyright a wrestling stance or a strongman stance.
Right, it's just too generic to try to.
Bjorn. Thank you, Bjorn. He goes to either me or Grindhead Jim from Motu Lore. Blue Harvest, it's good to see you. Let's see what Brick's saying here. As a kid, I obviously couldn't understand the lead time toys needed different companies, production teams working on different places, but yeah, it got frustrating. Yeah, it's up to 3 to 5 years of lead time sometimes on toys. So the film is in pre-production. They're tooling up toys for it based upon only what the studio's giving them, change between the time that the movie actually comes out and when pre-production starts. So your action figures and your toys are going to differ in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Toys that didn't look like the cartoon never happened, said the Transformers fan. I hear you there, Carl.
Yep.
Bo Hicks, Largo, that was a great video you did on the Headless Horseman earlier.
Oh, cool.
He gave you 5 stars on that.
Nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a good,
hit that like button.
toy,
Thank you,
and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, the Butterface Skywalker figure. Yeah, exactly.
That and that. Exactly. What was the deal with Han Solo and his big old head? It's like they did a couple versions.
Well, there were 2 versions of Han Solo. Yeah, one. Well, actually, there's little head Han and big head Han, and I never liked big head Han. I had a friend of mine who lived across the street. He had big head Han, and I had little head Han because my wife bought. Not my wife. My mother. My mother bought that for me when it first came out. She had bought me all the Star Wars figures when it first came out in the store. Runs. I didn't have the early version. Yeah, and so and they changed the production run because they. All right, I owe. So off to work I go. And he said, "Behave yourselves" in the chat. So, but anyway, yes, they thought the head looked too little, so they went back and retooled it and made it too big. There's no happy medium anywhere in this world, I suppose.
I imagine. I mean, I know Harrison Ford's likeness does seem to be one of those that's kind of difficult to capture, but they didn't even try on that one.
Oh, no, not at all. Shaitan's Hammer says, I now long for the simplicity in the Transformers. I hear you, buddy. I hear you. I didn't really get into the Transformers a little after my toy buying time, although I did have a couple of them. I had Optimus Prime. I always thought he was the coolest of them all.
That's because you're a fan of Convoy. You like a big truck.
No, I like a big truck, but I like the robot better than the truck itself. He usually stayed in robot form when I was displaying him.
Yeah. He did have the cool look. You know, I like a lot of kids. I was partial to Bumblebee. I like the character, and I liked the little toy that came out at the time because it was simple to transform. Yeah. Ouch! Excuse me.
And they were. Hey, hit that camera here. I'll join you there.
I was going to say, I'm sure you've never done that.
Were, and then. Laugh at me if you want to, chat, but I had more GoBots than I had Transformers, and that's because the GoBots were cheaper.
Yep, they were at Kmart. I remember the GoBots you could get probably 2 or 3 for about the price of a decent Transformer, depending on the size.
Nolan says he liked Dinobots, and GoBots were my go-to bots. All right.
Yep.
Sorry, guys. I know the Dinobots. They did. I thought the idea of the Dinobots was idiotic, but that was when I was 16 years old as well. A lot of things had become idiotic at that point, and I was more focused on something else, mainly something that was unattainable to me when I was 16.
Yes. Now, the Dinobots I could get behind, but when they got into the Beast Wars stuff, that was just kind of peculiar. It's like I can understand a robot trying to pass itself off as a car or a plane, but as a cheetah or a spider or this or that, I'm like, I'm not feeling it.
Well, they were clutching at straws because that's what the Japanese were making toys of over there, which had very little to do, I think, with the with the cartoon series that we were doing over here in the United States. And they're like, okay, this is what we got to make the cartoon into now. So, all right, writers, here you go, figure it out. And Shaitan's Hammer says he loathes animal form Transformers.
Yeah, now, like the, I always get a little confused. I know Ken over at Toy Connections is kind of an aficionado of this stuff when it comes to Transformers.
That's our go-to man. Yeah, that's our go-to Transformer guy right there.
There's a lot of stuff the animation. I mean, some of the animation they took straight from Japan and then just kind of reworked it like they did with Battle of the Planets or G-Force or Gatchaman.
I don't think that was necessarily the case with the Transformers.
Yeah, see, that's where it's a little confusing for me because I know they had a whole different cartoon series in Japan with a whole different storyline. Some of the characters had different names, so.
Well, now understand the Transformers had 2 or 3 different toy lines mashed together. You had a toy line that was basically everyday objects like a Walther PPK, for example, or a boombox with cassette tapes that could transform into robots that had nothing to do with the transforming car robots.
So those
And
were different.
I wish Goji
were they
was
different
still
toy
here.
lines?
Goji, if you're still listening, help me out here. I don't know that Japan ever made a cartoon series out of any of those robots. They were just toys.
I don't know.
Now I know Voltron is a very interesting case of the of mistranslation and being ruined by Western people. Yes, Voltron. There were 2 different Voltron series.
There were 3, because there was a third one that they tried to mash in. He wasn't very popular in the States, but it was the one where it was like a red and a blue giant robot, and they'd merged somehow or something. So there was the one that was all the different vehicles. In America they called it a Voltron. Yeah, Microman was another popular toy series. That's where a lot of the Micronauts that we got in the States came from, was the Microman line.
Yeah,
Go Line was the Japanese
Go Line was the Voltron that everybody remembers. That's the one that everybody liked. Then there was the cars and the vehicles that would turn into Voltron, and everybody was like, "Oh, that's the knockoff Voltron," and it didn't go over very well. Here we go. Thank you, Gojitron. Correct, Bill. The original Diaclone toys had little drivers, and they were non-sentient robots.
Okay, so they were more like the what do you call them? Like the Zords that the Power Rangers have, where they have to have a pilot.
Pretty much, there was a driver inside of it, or a pilot. And Nolan brings up Shogun Warriors. Shogun Warriors is basically the genesis of all of this. Okay, the Shogun Warriors. Go Nagi, I believe was the man's name who created the Chokugen series of robot anime and manga and later anime. And that brings up a point I probably haven't made here on the show. Those fans of this can test. In Japan, these series has had both a television cartoon show, which we call anime, but they also had a comic book series as well, and this was called manga. Now the television series, the animated television series, would be more kid based, not necessarily adult based. And while there were adult concepts that were in there, that it was toned down compared to the manga. The manga would go into deeper detail and go a little darker than the television shows would, and it would also explore sexual issues that they didn't go into in the television shows. So all of these were interrelated to one another. Well, you had more adults reading the manga than you had watching the anime.
Okay.
That's sense. Why the vehicle transformers had the cockpits. That's correct. And Go Nagi created both the anime and the manga for the Transformers, which Chokugen, which means magic metal, and that's a bad translation. I know that, but that's basically what's coming across. And some of these robots did cross over with one another and lived in the same universes, and some of them did not. And some of them were in the far future, and some of them were in the present. God Raideen or Raideen, he was a total different creature than say the Great Mazinger or Mazinger Z. I mean, uh, he was almost he had a pilot. Yes, there was a guy with a motorcycle that would shoot up inside of the chest of the Raideen, and the Raideen was like a proto transformer as well. He could transform into flight mode that looked like a bird. It was very primitive compared to a transformer, but it was there. And then you had Combattler V, who was a series of vehicles that could transform into a robot.
Okay.
And like I
Goji
said,
mentions
some of
that
these
the
series had
Marvel
nothing to do with
comics that we got for Transformers, they definitely had a lot to do with the lore that the American kids would understand. Just like with GI Joe,
That's
there was a
correct.
lot in the
I believe
comic
the
books.
comic came out before the cartoon series. The comic did come out before
Okay.
the cartoon series. The idea of them coming from Cybertron came from that. The idea of them coming in a great ship called the Ark, which was crashed on the Earth and became their headquarters, that came from the comic.
Okay. Well, it makes sense
And
that the
no,
folks writing
correct.
the
You
comics
don't
would
want
be
your
better.
kids reading.
Yeah. Yeah, I've read some manga that was definitely not for children. There's like there's one that
Well,
I
it's
can
not.
think of that.
That was adult reading. It's perfectly acceptable adult reading in Japan.
Oh, certainly. Have you ever heard of something called Fist of the
Uh,
North Star?
Brick,
Fist of,
Brick says here.
yeah,
Am
your
I back?
signal's lagging a little bit. Yeah, you're back.
All right. Brick something says I was born into a home that had Shogun Warriors, Mazinger Z, Raideen, and one other, and Godzilla, and later we got Rodan. The Rodan that Mattel issued was not part of the Shogun Warriors line, but in our minds it was, and that thing goes for stupid money on Evil Bay.
It was kind of a small production run, or
It was right at the end, and it was I think it might have been maybe meant for the Shogun Warriors line, but it wasn't part of the Shogun Warriors line, although it was similar. It wasn't
yeah.
branded Shogun Warriors.
But like I was saying before, one of the first mangas I ever read was Fist of the North Star, and then I saw the anime that they did of it, and even the anime, there was some ultra violence in that thing because it was a very
Yeah.
violent show. But it was probably definitely not what you'd show kids in the States, but in Japan they ate it up. It's great.
Well, I never got really into the manga during my comic book days, but the one I did get into was Akira,
Mm-hmm.
and I read a DC Comics did that, an adaptation of it that was not as intricate or as detailed as what came out in Japan. Then a friend of mine invited me to his home anime, and he was telling me. Then he started explaining to me the manga that this thing was based on, and it's way, in my opinion, was way different than what I had begun reading.
I'm agreeing here with our buddy in the
Oh,
chat. If the when it comes to the GI Joe movies, those were stinkers. But in the comic books, Transformers and GI
oh
Joes,
God,
they did a whole series. If they'd have done that in the film, maybe it had done better for the Joes. But who knows?
perhaps what Gojitron had said there. I was looking at that. Uh,
Oh, right, about the
Largo, remind me
Beast
someday to
Wars.
tell you why the Beast Wars characters have to turn into animals. Too much for me to type. It sounds to me like the reason is because comics.
Well, it's something to look into because they're doing a new movie, and the Beast Wars type characters are going to be featured in that. So,
Brick says Rodan was branded Shogun Warriors. Now
oh,
let me see here. He Brick. Let me check this out.
okay. Yeah, another classic. Akira was a beautiful anime. Still is. I mean, it was great animation, good storyline. Some of those anime, the writing in those is better than some of the live action stuff we're getting out of Hollywood. That's for sure. Oh yeah, Lone Wolf and Cub. We talked a little bit about that last night when we were talking about some of the Kurosawa films and some
Yeah,
of the, actually some of the Toho stuff that came out.
that's what got me. That's what got me. Got Yeah, that's what got me. Got
What?
was Shogun Assassin, which was basically the Americanized version of the Lone Wolf and Cub series, which was 6 movies long, if I'm not mistaken. Let me
Hmm.
share this screen with everyone that I pulled up here. Um, da, da, da,
So
da,
Rise of the Beast is the title of this next
share it.
Transformer film.
Where is it at? Am I? Here we go.
Oh
That's
yeah.
what I need to be looking at. I got the wrong one up. Hold on just a second. Bear with me, folks.
Yeah, Brick. Someone's talking about the Lone Wolf and Cub. Some of the U.S. releases that they did on the anime, or I mean, sorry, the manga. The artwork is just beautiful, stunning. Those are definitely worth collecting.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely are. All right, here we go. All right, guys. So you guys can see what I was talking about. And add that thing to the stream. There we go. All right. This is the Mattel Rodan, and it was branded
Nice.
World's Greatest Monsters. It has no Shogun branding on it whatsoever. If there is an example of this with Shogun branding on it, I want to see it, please. I have never
Now,
seen this
right,
piece with Shogun
it
branding on it.
right now it's possible they did more than one production run. They may have changed the box art and put Shogun Warrior on it,
Well, or they had a box
but it
art
was
that had
certainly
Shogun
compatible
Warrior
with
on it, and they
those.
changed
Hmm.
this. Yes, it was. I mean, it was the same. It was in the same scale as far as I'm concerned.
Hmm.
With as you can see, the child playing with it there on the box cover. Uh, Let me see if I can
Right.
zoom that in just slightly. Hang on, let me get over there to it.
If that
So
kid is actually to scale with the one he's got in his hand, and it's not jiggery pokery, that's a big critter. Not as big as the Godzilla was, but it's still pretty
yeah,
good
and
size.
that's probably one of the best pictures I've ever seen of the box. The box is damn hard to find. If you can find that thing in the box, it's worth a lot of money.
Hmm.
Yeah. Rodan was marketed with Shogun Warriors in that one comic book ad with the Godzilla in it. That's correct.
Okay.
I know the ad he's talking about. I've got that ad is featured on my blog where I talked about the Shogun Warriors and the history of them, which I need to make that blog article into a video and drop it one day. Most of those blog articles that I have over there will eventually one day become videos. I've got enough material to last me quite some time when it comes to that.
Now, Bill, this
38-inch
comment from
wingspan, damn, and it had a rubber. It had these big.
oh yeah, I was gonna say
Sir.
this comment from Brick something. You need to copy that, and next time Mrs. Weird Fantastic says something, you can show her. Bill is always right. Remember that.
Not always, but generally speaking, if I say something, I've probably researched it quite a bit. If I stand my ground on it, sometimes I don't. But the thing had these giant black rubber bands that held those wings together so they would flap. And of course, that's the
Okay.
first thing that dry rotted. So you've got to replace
Hmm.
those. They are replaceable. And what's Brick saying here? For me, the big early childhood anime introductions were the U.S. version, The Battle of the Planets. Yes, gotcha, man. Space
Hmm.
Cateers, which is Star Singer, and Grandizer and all that. Yes. What was that? The
The
Force Five.
Star,
The Force Five
yeah, Force
cartoons.
Five. And another big one for me as a kid was what they called Star Blazers, which was the battleship Yamato in
Yes, yes.
Japan.
I remember the Star Blazers. I had to go over to my friend's house to watch that because they had cable and we didn't. We had antenna outside.
Okay. Yeah, those the artwork in those is stunning. I mean, the way that they would draw those, it was like watching, because that was I remember that was kind of around the time Star Wars had kind of gotten big, and it was like, you
Now,
like Star
now,
Wars?
now,
Well,
now,
they've
now,
been
now,
doing that stuff in Japan forever.
hang on for a second, Largo. Now, I'm not going to read this out, but you can see what Brick has said here. Now, there's a term that I thought that we used for those stores, and that's called a head shop.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, let's try to use that term, man. I love you.
Tomato,
Uh,
tomato.
yes, Force Five, which is interesting. I think I brain farted one day when I was trying to think of the Force Five name. That was mainly the Shogun Warriors, this cartoon show. But the sad thing about that was the Force Five cartoons did not come out until after the Shoguns had already been pulled off the market.
Oh, that's too bad.
Instagram. Okay, I've got a link coming in. I'm going to check that. I've got to go to the phone to look at it though. So hang on there, Goji.
Yeah, Brick's qualifying. He's like that. Cool is in hella dope. Like slang.
Yes, that's correct, Goji. That is the comic book ad that I was referring to. But that was a comic book ad. It was not. It was the only marketing that had Rodan and Godzilla, and they weren't even named in it. You just saw them.
Another good one, Captain Harlock. I've seen the original, and there was a redone film. I saw that on Netflix. It was actually pretty good. At least the art was. That was another
Okay,
interesting
all right, all
space
right.
pirate.
Let me apologize to Brick. You're dealing with a 52-year-old man here. Just you got to understand that my slang is not up to speed sometimes, and sometimes you'll hear me use some of it, but that's only from osmosis of trying to hang out in
That's right.
places like Discord.
It's dope. It's fresh. It's cool. I'm gonna have to turn
Uh,
my hat backwards.
yeah, or sideways, like
That's it.
all good. 46 years old here. You're a young man.
Yeah, wait till 50 hits. You'll have fun. Oof, gravity.
I'm broke when I turned 50.
There are days I feel the same.
But anyway, we can stop sharing Rodan, I guess, for now. And I had to turn the toy cam off to look at Instagram, so I need to bring it back up, I guess.
Yeah, your internet is giving you fits today. It's kind of like what I had going on when we had the bad thunderstorm here the other day.
Yeah, every once in a while it'll dip. Right now it's back up
Hmm.
again, but it'll dip every now and then. And eventually, I'm probably going to have to reboot this whole system anyway, and there's some of that involved. I did a lot of heavy work on this machine last night.
Well, when you
Oh,
get
which
your
reminds me,
Patreons up a little bit, start working on a computer fund. Get you
yeah, exactly.
updated.
If I can get enough Patreons to start like I did for the camera, right now, pretty much all I'm paying for is a StreamYard over here subscription, a monthly subscription. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see what everything's plastic says here. I'm 38, and I don't think I ever said dope. LOL. Okay. And yes, it is. It is a weird universe, Shaitan.
Yep. Well, dope has
At least
recently
not in
entered
referring to
back into
cool.
my vernacular because of Hella Dope Toys, who they have a show on tonight, Sunday night. Y'all should go over there and check it out. They're pretty fun to hang out with.
It's International Slow Internet Week this week.
Yeah,
I think it's
Boba
Slow
Hicks is
Internet
definitely.
Month. He had it last week, and I'm having it this week. All right, so I decided because of what happened last night with all of that, I thought that I would share something special with you guys today. I've talked about this before. This is probably one of the most hilarious pieces of crap videos that I've ever seen in my life. Poor kids had to endure this in school when they were little, and it was featured on the Pee Wee Herman show at one time. Uh, It speaks for itself. I'm not even going to name this. You watch this, and then I want to watch the chat while this is going on. You guys riff this thing into shreds.
Just before lunch one day, a puppet show was put on at school. It was called Mr. Bungle Goes to Lunch. It was fun to watch. In the puppet show, Mr. Bungle came to the boys' room on his way to lunch. He looked at his hands. His hands were dirty, and his hair was messy. But Mr. Bungle didn't stop to wash his hands or comb his hair. He went right to lunch. Then, instead of getting into line at the lunchroom, Mr. Bungle pushed everyone aside and went right to the front. Even though this made the children laugh, no one thought that was a fair thing to do. Then, in the lunchroom, Mr. Bungle was so clumsy and impolite that he knocked over everything, and no one wanted to sit next to him. And when he finally knocked his own tray off the table, that was the end of the puppet show. The children knew that even though Mr. Bungle was funny to watch, he wouldn't be much fun to eat with. Phil knew that a Mr. Bungle wouldn't have many friends. He wouldn't want to be like Mr. Bungle. Later, Miss Brown said it was time for the children who ate in the cafeteria to go to lunch. She hoped there weren't any Mr. Bungles in this room. Phil stopped to return a book to Miss Brown while his friends went on to the lunchroom. He would have to catch up with them later. On his way to catch up with his friends, Phil almost walked past the boys' room, but he stopped and thought. Were his hands clean? No, they were a little dirty. Phil remembered that Mr. Bungle didn't wash his hands. Mr. Bungle's hair was messy, too. Phil didn't want to be like Mr. Bungle. Inside the boys' room, Phil was surprised to see some of his friends washing their hands, too. Phil washed his hands well, with lots of soap. Then he rinsed the soap off. Phil dried his hands well, too. When he was finished, he threw the paper towel in the basket where it belonged. And then he made sure that his hair looked neat. Now, Phil and his friends were ready for lunch. There was a line of children waiting to get into the lunchroom when Phil got there. He saw some boys he knew at the front of the line. They waved for him to go up to the front with them. But Phil didn't want to break into line as Mr. Bungle did. So Phil went to the end. That was the fair thing to do. He would see his other friends inside the lunchroom. The line moved very fast, and soon Phil was inside. First he picked up his tray. Then he got his silverware. He put his knife, fork, and spoon neatly on the tray. And then he slid his tray along. He always enjoyed looking at the good food in the cafeteria. It tasted good and was good for him, too. Instead of having a sandwich today, Phil decided to take the hot lunch. Phil took some bread and butter, too. And he knew what else he wanted, milk. But Alice took the last carton on the tray. Maybe there was more milk. So he said, "May I please have some milk?" Phil remembered to say, "May I?" and "please." That was very polite. Yes, there was more milk. Phil remembered to say thank you when he took the carton of milk. Phil had good manners. He didn't want to be like Mr. Bungle in the lunchroom. Phil didn't want to forget his dessert. The cake looked delicious. At the end of the line, the lunchroom supervisor said she had noticed how polite Phil was, and she smiled at him. She wouldn't smile at a Mr. Bungle. Phil went to the table where his friends were. He put his tray down carefully, pulled out his chair quietly, and sat down. He knew his friends wouldn't like a noisy Mr. Bungle at their table. There was someone Phil liked, Freddie. He always brought his lunch from home. It looked good. Freddie had a sandwich, an apple, a cookie, and milk. Before Phil began to eat, he always put a napkin on his lap. So did Freddie. Everyone liked Freddie. He was very polite. For example, if he had food in his mouth when someone talked to him, he always took time to chew the food with his mouth closed and swallow before he answered. Phil noticed how straight and tall Freddie usually sat. Freddie kept his feet on the floor, too. Phil would rather be like Freddie than like Mr. Bungle. Another polite person everyone liked was Alice. For example, when Alice sneezed, she covered her mouth and nose. This protected her friends at the table from any germs. While Phil and his friends ate, a boy ran past their table. You shouldn't run in the lunchroom. Only Mr. Bungle would do that. Phil and his friends wouldn't like to have a Mr. Bungle at their table. Then lunchtime wouldn't be as much fun as it is. Phil ate slowly and enjoyed his lunch. Finally, he had eaten everything except his dessert. He saved his cake for last. Only a Mr. Bungle would eat his dessert before he'd finished the rest of his lunch. And Phil wasn't a Mr. Bungle. The cake was good. Phil drank his milk carefully. Some children are messy when they drink milk, but not Phil. As each of Phil's friends finished, they didn't leave the table, but waited for all the others to finish eating too. Phil was the last one done. He wiped his mouth and hands carefully with his napkin. Then he cleaned the table where he sat. He didn't want to leave his place at the table dirty. Everyone at the table cleaned his own place well. But look at that table. It was left very messy. Phil thought a Mr. Bungle must have sat there. But Phil didn't want to be like Mr. Bungle, so he put his chair neatly into place. And his table looked fine. Not a piece of paper or scrap of food was left on it. No Mr. Bungle sat here. Phil's friends were careful to put their waste papers and empty milk cartons where they belonged. In this way, they helped keep the lunchroom clean. Phil was certain that Mr. Bungle wouldn't put his paper in the waste basket and his empty carton on the milk tray. Mr. Bungle probably wouldn't bother to put his lunch tray in the right place either, but Phil and his friends did. Lunch was good today. And then Miss Brown told Phil and his friends how proud she was of them. They had left their table the neatest in the lunchroom. No one here was a Mr. Bungle, and no one wanted to be. Are you like Mr. Bungle? Mr. Bungle is a shame because he spoils lunchtime. Don't be like Mr. Bungle. Have good lunchtime manners, and lunch will be more fun for everyone.
A good point was made by Shaitan's Hammer. Why are they saving the milk cartons? Why don't they throw them things in the garbage too? What are they going to do, refill them? I think not.
I don't know. I just know that lunch
Phil
did not
was
look
very
like that
neat.
when I was in school.
Here we go. Phil was very neat. He went on to spend 35 years in a thankless job and a loveless marriage until his children went home and spent all of their inheritance. The end.
Yes, poor Phil probably ended up a bald and grumpy alcoholic.
All of those kids looked a little spastic to me. But yeah, I thought I would share that with you. We watched some stuff last night, and one of them was innocuous. I thought movie trailers, and I got dinged. But I don't think this is firmly in the public domain. Whereas Angie Baby,
Yeah.
the tune was not. I think that the cartoon was. And Bill, where do you find those commercials and shorts? Well, as you know, I have no life, so I spend my days scouring YouTube, and when I find something, I get it before the robots take it down. So it goes into my collection, and I have quite a big collection. I think one night on Late Night with Largo and Bill, we don't do this in prime time, but I've got some old U.S. Navy VD films, and those are a hoot.
I love the the narrator that they get for some of those these and the Navy ones too, where the guy sounds like he just graduated from broadcasting school and he has this kind of voice going on all the time. It's like nobody talks like that, man.
Let's understand why this movie was narrated. It was shot probably on 8mm film that has no soundtrack to it. So what you heard was added later. It wasn't actually filmed with sound. So there was a movie that they did on MST3K that Earth versus the Monster or some crap. And most of that film was narrated because it was all shot on 8mm film with no soundtrack. So they just threw a narrator in.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's save money. Let's use all this old nasty film with no soundtrack on it.
Yeah. There was quite a few of those creature features that were low budget. They just took whatever footage they could find and tried. What was that
one with the guy in the ape suit? It was a guy in an ape suit, and he had a diver's helmet on his head, and he was the space creature.
I remember the costume, but I cannot remember the name of the film.
I think Rebel actually made a model kit of that, and you could take the helmet off, and it would be the guy that played underneath it. The actual actor with face was underneath it.
Oh, okay.
So did any of those kids go on to make high dollar movies? No, but some of them did go into the prawn industry.
Oh, Phil,
Robot Monster. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, World My Cardboard. I see that your tastes run in the same direction that mine do. Robot Monster.
Yeah, those Saturday. For me, it was a lot of the Saturday reruns where they'd show the creature of the week or creature feature, or like they. Or
what was the one that had
the
robot Kong in it? What was the one that had Robot Kong in it? The evil scientist in that was named Doctor Who.
Was he? I didn't know that one. Maybe I've seen it. That's trippy. Oh yeah,
madness. Yes, that was a propaganda film that came out, I think, in the 40s. Yeah, one hit of reefer, and now he's suddenly become a maniac. Yep. King Kong escapes. Thank you. Carl is still here with us to keep us on track. Thank you so much, sir. King Kong escapes. That was a hoot movie too. Doctor Who.
Yep.
Hey, what's going on there, Michael? I hadn't seen you earlier today. I guess you just got off of work or something, man. That's good to see you. Yeah. You missed a hell of a show last night. We got suspended in the middle of the night last night. You'll have to go back and watch the video I cut earlier today. Co-produced by Toho and Rankin Bass. I didn't know that. I knew about Toho. I didn't know about Rankin Bass. That explains why Kong looked the way he did. Some of the greatest movies ever, if Mechanicon. Let's see. Shaitan Hammer says Doctor Who versus the Daleks. Actually, I've got both of those Doctor Who movies that came out that were based upon. The first one was based upon Doctor Who and the Daleks, and the second one was based upon the Dalek invasion of Earth. And the storylines are pretty much the same storyline. It's just that in the movies, Doctor Who was actually named Doctor Who, and he was an Earth scientist who built his TARDIS using his intellect.
Right. Yeah, it was completely different from the canon from the BBC. It was Peter Cushing, I believe, played the Doctor in those films. The guy who played the Grand Moff Tarkin in the Star Wars.
He did. He looked a lot less menacing as the Doctor, or Doctor Who. Excuse me. When we're talking about the movies, we get to refer to him as Doctor Who because that was his name in the movie. Yes.
He was also in a lot of those British the Hammer horror films. I remember him showing up. As like Van Helsing.
Him and Christopher Lee. They were the big horror movie guys, and those Hammer horror movies were a sight better than the Universal horror movies. Sorry, guys. I know you guys like the Universal monsters, but the Hammer movies were scarier.
They were more gruesome. They definitely were not afraid to use the fake blood. Whereas the Universals would try to tone that down.
Yeah, and the Hammer movies were in color, whereas the Universals were in black and white. And Peter Cushing, that's the character that he played was Van Helsing.
Mm-hmm.
Vampire Hunter. Here we go.
Yes.
Blip.
The Hammer horror movies also had a fair share of boobage, as our friend there, Shaitan's Hammer, has pointed out. They weren't afraid to show the ladies.
Blood and boobs. Yeah, they generally got shown late at night at the grindhouse. Peter Cushing fought Daleks, vampires, mummies, werewolves. He was a tough dude. And then he blew up Alderaan.
That's right.
I prefer the Hammer, but they played those more here in Canada than the Universal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Before I blipped a minute ago, I was talking about that they tried to reboot the Universal monsters into a series of movies, starting with a really awful Van Helsing movie, if I'm not mistaken. Did they not?
Well, I think for their what they called the Dark Universe was going to be Universal's shared universe thing. I think they considered The Mummy to be the beginning of that. But yeah, the Van Helsing one was good in the fact that they tried to bring in several different things with, the Frankenstein's monster and Dracula and the werewolves. But I liked that particular movie, but it just didn't seem to get much traction behind it.
What was that campy movie that came out back in the early 2000s where it had Frankenstein's monster and it had Dracula and it had Van Helsing in it, it had Hyde from Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde in it, and he was almost like a Hulk-like creature. And
I was going to say, you talking about the Monster Squad?
No. This was terrible. It started. I think it started out in France, and then they were chasing after Mr. Hyde, and then they ended up
the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That was based on
that was good. No, that was good. I liked League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. This was the comic series. I never saw the movies. Sorry, I think they put Tom Sawyer in the movies, which was stupid, but. No, it wasn't League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It was a Universal movie, and this was basically supposed to be the Universal monsters, but it was awful. It was terrible, and the fact that nobody can remember this except me says a lot about how the quality of this movie was terrible, awful. The Van Helsing movie. I think you're right. It was a Van Helsing movie because Van Helsing was the main character, and I think Yeah, Hugh Jackman played Van Helsing, and it was awful. It was a terrible movie.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, it was the Van Helsing movie. And Ted Darklaw with us here. Hey guys, listening in while at work. Don't know how long I can say, but happy to be here. Hey, good to have you, man.
Cool.
Yeah, that was the Jackman Van Helsing movie. Yeah, that thing doesn't hold up. I can remember going to see it with my daughter, and I think she enjoyed it, and I was like, okay.
It was kind of it was kind of hammy.
Yeah, very much so. And I think Dracula was the bad guy in it, and he was making this big device that was going to turn everybody into vampires or some stupid.
Well, no, the premise was he wanted to make some vampire babies, and he couldn't make sweet loving with his vampire brides. They had to come up with some other way. So that's why they needed the Frankenstein monster, because they needed to figure out how to create life, because vampires are undead. They can't procreate, apparently.
I think I did too as well in the middle of this movie.
Yep.
No Way Farm. That was extremely campy. It was horribly campy. Let's see. Gojitron says Van Helsing was a Summers film, and the guy that did the Brandon Fraser mummy movies. Yeah, that's what you were saying. The Brandon Fraser mummy movies were supposed to be part of this, and it was all going to become this dark universe that wasn't really all that dark and more stupid. Dracula, dead and loving.
Couldn't get it off the ground.
Dead enough.
Yeah, Dead and Loving It. That was was it Leslie Nielsen comedy? Kind of like his Naked Gun.
All right, wait a minute. Now, who remembers Blackula, Dracula's soul brother?
That one, and what was it, Vampire in Brooklyn with Eddie Murphy? That was kind of peculiar.
They needed Frankenstein's monster to power the machine or something. Yeah, and didn't he like have a clock in his chest for a heart? It was going tick tick tick, and you could see like his brain in his head or something. It was kind of stupid.
Yeah, their design for the monster was a little off, but they tried.
Well, Made Cardboard admits now that he remembers it. Okay.
Yeah, I think we tried to block it out. The actor who played Dracula, he didn't do a terrible job. He definitely hammed it up. But yeah, the script was something that was lacking.
Now speaking of Dracula, Gary Oldman played Dracula, if I'm not mistaken, in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Now I can remember that being a pretty damn decent movie when I went to see that, and it was more closer to Bram Stoker's novel.
I was going to say, yeah, Coppola directed that. That's why it was pretty well done. The only glaring problem in that film that I think was the casting of Keanu Reeves trying to play a British gentleman. That was the only part of the film that just didn't jive. I mean, he's a nice guy. He's a good actor in other things, but in that one, I didn't care for him in that.
Like I said, I kind of want to watch it now because I want to see if it holds up today. Shaitan's Hammer tells us the Monster Squad was the best Universal reboot. I remember a Saturday morning live action Monster Squad that was awful. They were superheroes, and they were wax creatures in the museum, and the guy that he would control them or whatever. That was
I don't remember
that.
Bad. I do remember there was a Saturday morning cartoon called the Drac Pack. That was kind of cute.
That was a cartoon show. This was actually live action.
Yeah, I don't remember live action.
Yes, wait, Ted. Yeah, they're going into the Bill and Ted stuff there in the chat there. But Monster Squad, yeah. I haven't seen the rebooted Monster Squad movie that had all the Universal monsters, and I guess I'm gonna have to pick that up somehow.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
We got here? FFC, Francis Ford Coppola, best Dracula and used real models. Well, I remember the beginning of that movie. It really wasn't in the Bram Stoker novels. It was more based upon Vlad Dracul and Dracula, who is his son. Uh, Dra- Vlad Dracul and Dracula were real monsters that lived in
Right.
that area of the world, and they were probably monsters for a reason because they were like the front
Well, they
line
were.
holding off the hordes of Persia coming
I was
in
gonna say they were fighting
to
the
take
Turks,
over
weren't they?
Asia Minor.
Mm-hmm.
Turks, yeah, it was the Turks, and right around the area of Asia Minor where the real Transylvania is. But Dracula, what he liked to do was he liked to eat his supper while people were being impaled around him. And when I mean impaled, I mean they would take a stake and they would lay you across the stake. There were two or three different ways to impale you. You could go head down, you could go anus down, or you could just go right straight through your chest or your stomach and you're falling down this pike by
Yeah,
your own by gravity,
it
and
was.
he's just sitting there.
Yeah, it's not a good way to go. But he was definitely trying to make a point to let people know not to invade his lands.
I remember the Groovy Ghoulies too. That was Dracula was playing this huge organ, and his feet were going on the pedals as well. I remember the opening to that. I don't think I ever actually tried to watch it when I was a kid. Monsters in My Pocket were great. Forced Perspective for shots. Goji Tron says, "Who watched the Dracula movie with Luke Evans? They tried to
I
combine
saw
the
it.
history of Vlad with the legend of Dracula." Excuse me. Um, did Jack Palance ever play Dracula?
Yes.
I thought he did. I swear I remember Jack Palance playing Dracula. Jack Palance used to scare the bejesus out of me when I was a kid. Just the way he talked. And then he was on Ripley's Believe It or Not. Believe it or not.
Yep. It seems like somewhere between the late 60s, all through the 70s, and part of the 80s, there was a Dracula movie every other year. And all kinds of different people played. Some were good, some were absolutely horrible.
Was there one called Dracula 1972 AD or something like that? Where
Probably.
they
I mean, there were a
tried to
lot of
bring
them.
him into modern times.
Yep.
I've
There's a
never
few that
seen
have
that,
tried
but
that.
just the idea of that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
And Goji's never heard of the Dracula movie with Luke Evans.
It was
Yeah.
fairly recent.
Well,
I think now that might have also been one that they were planning to try to plug into that shared universe idea that fell flat.
this is back in the 70s I'm talking about.
Oh no, no,
Right.
I'm talking about the Luke Evans film, the more
Oh, the
recent
Luke
one.
Evans. Yeah, that may have been. All that fell flat. I don't even think they could. I think they made a set of toys that went with it that didn't sell.
That I don't remember. They did make Van Helsing toys, and they were kind of lackluster. Yeah, Dracula
Dracula
2000. There was.
2000. Oh God. Uh, is that hiss or hiss?
I do like
On
some of
Tubi. The
the
Jack
other.
Palance version was on Tubi.
Oh yeah, I do like some of the vampire movies that have come out, but most of them have been kind of oddball ones that were interesting. Like there was John Carpenter did one just called Vampires. It wasn't a Dracula movie, but they were like vampire hunters that were kind of like mercenaries. It was kind of a fun romp. Tarantino did his From Dusk Till Dawn, which was trippy. Because you've got the Tarantino
Well,
sensibility for filmmaking.
we're talking about vampires. We're talking about vampires. Is there any new news on a Blade movie set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
There was an actor cast. There was talk of some pre-production work, and then it got quiet. So I don't know where they are with that. The Marvel Universe seems to be struggling in Phase 4 and beyond.
No
Didn't
way
like
says
John
John
Carpenter's
Carpenter's
Vampires?
vampires.
I liked it, but I like some cheesy schlock now and then. So I wouldn't say it was great cinema, but it was a fun watch.
One of the greatest bad movies of all time has got to be Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Oof.
Look at our secret weapon, and it's like some pipe hands on strings doing this. Let's go to the old folks home and get some footage of Bela Lugosi walking around in the garden. We'll cut that in, and then we'll take my wife's dentist and just have him walk around with his cape over his face.
Yeah, the story of Ed Wood that was done as a film, I think Johnny Depp was in that. That was actually more interesting, kind of seeing the idea of this wacky director trying to put stuff together behind the scenes. Definitely more interesting than the Plan 9 movie itself.
Shaitan's Hammer says Blade keeps losing its directors. That seems to be the par for the course at Marvel in general and DC. Because what happens is they bring these directors in and they give them, instead of letting them direct the movie, they tell them what to do, and directors don't work that way.
Right. And it seems like a lot of people have forgotten. It's like, Wesley Snipes did a pretty good job as Blade, and that was kind of the first modern superhero movie that was really popular. I mean, there had been a few before, but that was probably one of the most commercially successful ones.
I liked that Blade movie. I liked that first Blade movie with him in it. Right. I liked that. Now, wait a minute.
The sequel's not so much.
John,
the first one, yes.
John, I had forgotten that. Here you bringing that crap back up again. Thank you. I had put that completely out of my mind. That wasn't even going to get brought up today. But no.
Vampires do
John
not
can't
sparkle.
Have that.
I hated those. That was such an awful time to live through when those movies were popular.
Oh God.
Not to mention the books they were based on. Now, how could you like Plan 9 and not like John Carpenter's Vampires? Come on now.
Yes, I've seen the Manos, The Hands of Fate. It is a must watch. However, the only way it is watchable is with the guys riffing it. I mean, the robots and everything. Plan 9. Manos is an unwatchable movie, but if you've got the guys riffing it, you can get through it. They'll help you to keep your sanity.
Now, is that one as bad or worse than Zardoz with Sean Connery? That one to me is almost unwatchable. That's pretty rough.
Let me put it this way. The first 15 minutes of the movie is the people driving through the desert.
They're not even going through the desert on a horse with no name?
No, it's just they put the camera on the hood of the car and they just show them driving through the desert. And what I understand those scenes were meant to be used with the opening credits of the movie, but they never used any opening credits, so it's just them driving.
Then nobody thought to edit that out a little?
Well, they had to pad the thing out to make it last for an hour and a half. And then there was the man who I forget what his name was, and he's walking with this staff, and he was supposed to be a centaur. He made these prosthetic legs to make him look like a centaur, but when they put the pants on him, you couldn't tell what he was supposed to be. You just thought he was a cripple.
Wow.
Let's catch up the chat here, because they cast and allowed to be RSDC unless you're Ryan Johnson. Hope I caught your show in time. We're about on the last half hour there, Mr. I Like Salt. Yeah. Gourmet Cardboard says you're welcome. Yeah, I figured that you'd be happy about doing that to me. Not allowed, says Shaitan's Hammer. Plan 9 is a classic. AC Vamps as well. And
okay. We can agree
Zardoz
to disagree.
Is too much Sean Connery skin.
Yes.
Zardoz.
There was much more of Sean Connery in that film than needed to be, that's for sure. He's basically just wearing a diaper through the whole thing. And the years had not been kind to him by the point he did Zardoz,
Cherry Bomb. I don't know about Cherry Bomb, but I remember Cherry 2000. Do you remember Cherry 2000?
I remember Cherry 2000. Cherry Bomb doesn't ring a bell, but I've probably seen it. I've seen a lot of interesting films over the years.
And I agree with Michael here about Twilight.
Ugh, yeah, not my cup of tea. It's goofy, horribly goofy.
Adam
Not
says,
in a
I
good
was just
way.
watching your review of The Horseman, Largo.
Oh, cool.
See, did you get my dedicated video to you today? He asked. So, did you, or have you even been to your email?
I have not been to my email or anything much today, but I will check that as soon as we are done here.
Yeah, we may wrap it up a little early because I'm starting to run out of steam. I don't know about you, Largo, but I've done several things that I shouldn't do all night tonight, and one of them was chain smoke, and that's not a good thing.
No, it's not. Yeah, I should cut down. I keep saying that, and I'm still.
Yeah, me
puffing
too.
away.
Cherry 2000 with Melanie Griffith in it. Yeah, that was a terrible
Yep.
movie, but I mean, I remember being a kid and getting that thing at the video store and thinking I'd gotten some softcore porn, running home to go watch it.
Yeah, she was cute in that film.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm happy for you. No way. Don't
yeah, don't.
stay away. Said Warman Carver said I couldn't even get through the Mystery Science Theater 3000 version of the girl in the golden boots. Oh, that was horrible. I actually found a non-misty version of it. My hand started shaking as I held it. Fear, uncontrollable fear. Girl in the Gold Boots is a bad movie. I've only watched it in the Misty version. I have not ever seen the real. I didn't even know the real version existed out there.
That's true. There are some of
Well,
those
thank you, Adam.
mystery
It's on
science ones.
YouTube. It's,
Yeah,
or maybe
some of those
he's talking
mystery
about.
science theater
Maybe he's talking
films
about.
never heard of before. Hmm.
Adam, maybe he's talking about the video he's got dedicated to you is on YouTube now.
Okay, I'll check it out.
We'll have to check your channel out, Adam. Sorry, but we've been busy getting banned off of YouTube in the middle of the night, cutting videos
Yeah.
and getting ready for show prep and going on and guesting on another show.
The last 48 hours have been kind of peculiar,
a blur,
to say the
yeah.
least.
I haven't been asleep at 6 o'clock yesterday
Oof.
morning.
Yeah, you're gonna about time for a nap, Bill. I
I'm going to
probably
crash.
need one too.
I can feel it crashing right now. My head it feels like it's about this big. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And
I've had those days. Because you get to that point where you've stayed up past the point where your brain starts telling you, you probably should have slept a few hours ago, but since you're up, you might as well just stay up.
well, you have to because if I go to sleep before 8 o'clock tonight, I won't sleep tonight, and then that'll be bad. Jane
Oh, yeah.
Fonda's Barbarella. My. Yeah, that was. I can remember when I got that too, and then I thought I had something on my hands.
That's where we got Duran Duran came from Barbarella.
God, yes. The original graphic novels from France that was based upon are good. The movie,
Yes.
not so
No.
much.
It was worth watching. She did look pretty.
Get him to show up here. Just walked into the lunchroom and Godzilla versus Monster Zero is on the TV, and I'm not the one who put it there. There is help for humanity.
There's people out there that are having some kaiju experience.
Looks like Eduardo wanted the spotlight in your video, Largo. Yes. Eduardo has become the mascot of Largo's lair. He will be in the videos because you can hear him in the background. Largo just can't make a video. It's impossible without hearing him back there. So just make it part of the show.
I don't even fight it
Can't beat him,
anymore.
join.
Exactly.
Amen. He's talking about Monster Zero, Godzilla versus Monster Zero, which had the Exilians in it, I think is what they ended up calling those space aliens. Somewhere around here, I have got a DVD copy, and I'm going to have to digitize the thing. Somebody sent this to me years and years ago, just out of the blue, unsolicited. It's called Godzilla versus Monster Eggs. and it is Godzilla versus the Monster Zero, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
it's like uh, Tiger Lily. They all of the sound dialogue and everything has been cut out of it and replaced with just hilarity, uh,
Okay.
overdubbing.
Right.
I've got to find that thing. That's got to be put out here someday. French comics rule. Yes.
Yep. Now was that? I think his name was Mobius. That he did was it? Well, he was either or the artist or the writer or both for those
He was.
French
I know
comics.
Mobius is an artist, and he's got a real
Mm-hmm.
name, but everybody calls him Mobius. But yeah, he's way out there, but he's cool.
Cool designs.
Rollerball.
Yeah. That was
Thank you. No way
James.
farms. You
James
down?
Caan was in that, wasn't it? With Rollerball. There was quite a few
Well,
people in
no,
that cast that
no
were.
way, no way farms. You and Goji can both go sit in the corner together because y'all have brought up movies that I thought I'd forgotten. God, Rollerball, the
Yep.
'70s version.
Yeah, the remake was not great.
The original Rollerball, not the remake that sucked. Well, I thought the original one sucked too. Maybe I'm just not remembering correctly, but maybe I'm getting them mixed up. What's up with that commercial that got blocked? I saw your short on it. Wasn't a commercial. It was a
Oh.
movie trailer for Shogun
Mm-hmm.
Assassin, and apparently Toei is very protective of that because I guess they own the rights to it, and they suspended me while it was being shown last night, so I had to clip it out. And while the live stream was reprocessing, which takes about 2 or 3 hours, I decided to go in to the spot where I had picked that up from on YouTube, and it's still there. It'd been there for 8 years unmolested. So, as I said in the video, rules for thee, but not for me. So this guy gets away with putting it up there. Nobody says a word to him about it. I show it on my show in the middle of the night, and as I'm showing it in live time, that portion of the show got blocked.
Well, that's because you're just a troublemaker, Bill. They're looking out for you. They got an eye on you.
I swear. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a
You
ball.
can dodge a ball. I love that movie. It's so stupid.
Marble madness. The original kind of sucked too. I cannot refute your claim. Thank you. I thought I was correct on that.
Yeah,
I
Rollerball
was
was not
correct.
great cinema, but it was a fun watch.
Was there any great cinema in the '70s, or did we just not get to watch it?
Hmm. I'd have to think on that one. I don't know. It seems like there was. The Kubrick films were considered really good
Yeah,
in
that's yeah,
2001.
yeah. 2000. Well, come on now. Yes, 2001 is. It's one of those movies you have to see, and yes, the music is beautiful in it and everything.
Yes.
Go and
But
watch.
it's,
If
yeah.
they had made Star Wars like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where they're playing
Oof.
the da 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 boop 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 boop.
Yeah.
You see the Star Destroyer coming upon the blockade runner in slow motion.
It was definitely a very slow pace. Um, Soylent Green, definitely not great
See,
cinema, but
paved
Charlton Heston
the
did a good
run with
job.
Running Man.
Yeah, Running Man was good. The
Soylent
original,
Green
not the
is
remake.
it people. Yes, Soylent Green is people. That's correct. It's a great movie. Um, okay, the only good movie from the '70s is Star Wars. Not
Seems like
wrong,
it.
right?
There had to be something else
What
that came out
about
of the 70s that
Robot
was pretty decent.
Jocks? Hang on. John brings up
Robot
some
Jocks.
Drick. I've never seen Robot Jocks. It
If it's
lingered
the one
over
I'm
in the
thinking of,
video.
there was some it was really bad model stop motion, or it, yeah, it was an interesting
Wait a minute.
idea,
Was
but
that
it
was
just
that was
didn't
that was
take
that
off.
that movie with it was like the giant robots with a pilot inside of it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I have that. I have that. That tells me a lot. Yeah, okay. I couldn't remember the name of it, but I remembered watching it. We got Logan's Run. The movie was based upon a book. The book was pretty good. The movie, well, it had a lot to be desired. And then there was the TV show that sucked boot holes.
Yeah, it didn't last very long.
Odyssey. Everyone says it's great, but am I missing something? No, you're not missing anything. The 2001: A Space Odyssey was meant to be the most realistic space movie shot to that time. Unfortunately, it absolutely was the most realistic space movie ever shot to that time. Therefore, it is boring as hell.
There are parts of it.
There are scenes that were shot purposefully where you can't. People are just talking in the background, and it's just a rumble of unintelligible voices. He shot it that way on purpose, so it would be like you were inside of an airport.
Gojitron brings up a good point. Jaws was, a 70s film that was pretty good.
Yeah, but I always remember Jaws 3D, where Jaws actually chased them down. He followed them in the water to wherever they moved to so he could menace them again.
Well, the original Jaws, before all the sequel schlock that came along, other than the fact that Bruce the Shark didn't work real well, the movie itself was pretty good.
Robot Jocks was 80s, wasn't it? I believe you're right. It had practical special effects in it, which meant that it looked awful. Fahrenheit 451 was a good movie. The book was a ton better and made more sense. But yeah, Fahrenheit 451, very good. Very good, yes. Jaws. My wife wants to know if you remember Saturday the 14th.
I do remember Saturday the 14th. That was funny.
Yeah,
that one and that movie House with William Catt. Those were good comedy horrors.
What are you doing, John? What are you doing? I have thoughts on Clark. Shall we play a game of chess, Dave?
Hal was just misunderstood. He wasn't evil.
Well, Star Wars was 77, so there's that. Well, see, one of the problems George Lucas had with Star Wars was 2001: A Space Odyssey. 2001: A Space Odyssey had entered the public consciousness to the point to where everyone was like, no, not another space movie when Lucas was trying to pitch Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yes, realistic sci-fi will kill sci-fi. Well, see, that's the difference. There's a difference between science fiction and science fantasy. Most of what we call science fiction is actually science fantasy. Star Trek, science fantasy. Star Trek, science fantasy.
I'd say
hard sci-fi dry.
The only thing that's been close to the hard sci-fi in recent years is The Expanse, which is based on a series of novels as well. Their spacecraft designs and ideas. They kind of
tried to go in that direction. They kind of tried to go in that direction with the Battlestar Galactica remake that they did. If you remember, whenever they would get in space, they would mute the sound down, and the ships would.
Right.
You could see them doing maneuvers that aren't aerodynamic, because you don't have to be aerodynamic when there's no air.
Right. They definitely tried to give it more of a realistic feel in the way they filmed it.
Well, John says that his mother took him to see Disney movies in the 70s. That's because back in those days, before there were such things as VCRs and round-the-clock movie channels, Disney would actually re-release all of their hit films in the movie theaters on a schedule. So every 5 years, every 10 years, all the Disney movies would come back in the movie theaters one by one, and you would get a chance to go and see Dumbo and Pinocchio and all of that as a child, as if you'd never seen it before. and
Well,
it
they
worked
did
real
go
well for
through a
them.
whole series of those live action clunkers too, like the computer wore tennis
That's
shoes and the
awful.
Shaggy DA and yeah, some of those. I mean, they're cute to watch now, but they weren't great films.
2001, the comic book by Kirby, Jack Kirby, the king of comics, was better than the movie by far, which led
Yep.
into a character that crossed over out of that called Robot Man.
Mm-hmm.
Machine Man,
Machine
excuse
Man.
me, Machine Man.
Machine
Yeah,
Man. He's
Machine
still in
Man.
Marvel Comics.
He is. He came from 2001 Space Odyssey. I think Star Wars was so gritty and new because much of the movies to that point were almost film noir, a dark look at humanity then now future. Well, one of the things that Lucas pioneered was the idea of a worn future. In other words, up to that point, whenever they would show something futuristic, it had to be bright and shiny and brand new. And Lucas is like, no, if this stuff has been around a while, it's worn out and used, it's got scratches
Right.
on it and stuff, and it's dirty. Which is why the
Well, even the
spaceships looked like they did. The Millennium Falcon looked like went through hell.
right, even the post-apocalyptic movies, which were popular there for a while, even their war torn or post-apocalypse stuff didn't look, it still didn't look quite right.
Yeah, there's a YouTube video out there that I've been meaning to watch. It's called "Why the Black Hole Failed." The Black Hole should have been a good movie. We should have all had
Yeah.
wanted to go and see that, and came out wanting to go buy the Mego toys that floundered. What happened to the black hole? Why did the black hole fail?
I don't know. I
It's a good
imagine there's some
question.
behind-the-scenes shenanigans going on with the production, but I don't know.
The ending of the black hole is bad, and not bad in a good way. It's bad, bad. He's correct. Uh,
Yeah.
so we spend all of our exposition, all of our energy getting to the point to where now they're going over the event horizon of the black hole, and then the movie takes this hard left turn, and it goes to fuck. It really does. I mean, it's like
It's
so
almost
everybody
like they
died at
tried
the
to.
end.
It's like they tried to ape the ending of 2001 Space Odyssey and try to give it a spiritual twist, and it's like that was totally not what this
Yeah,
movie was going for.
yeah. The ending wasn't well thought out. I think you're correct, John. I think you're correct on. In no way agrees. Okay, Tron.
Yep.
We got 15 more. Well, a little less than 15 minutes. Tron. Tron was an excellent movie, and probably some of the best computer generated special effects at the time. Probably one of the
At the
first
time.
movies to ever try to do that. Um,
I did hear the actors
and a
really
funny
hated
story.
trying, because the way they had to film the special effects to get the look, it's like they were
Yeah.
miserable in those costumes.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. When Tron came out, my sister's husband worked at a place in Huntsville, Alabama called Intergraph, and he was a computer technician, and he refused to go see Tron. And we finally, why don't you want to go see Tron, man? He goes, look, I have to deal with computers all day if I'm going to go see a movie about them.
Fair enough.
Yes, Tron was a pretty good damn movie for the time.
Yeah.
I think I saw the sequel, but I didn't see the sequel to the sequel of that. No, I didn't like either one of them. I think that's why I didn't go see the third one. There were too many chiefs in the black hole script. Yes.
Hmm.
Mad Max gave us one of the first gritty features in films. The original Mad Max, the one that everybody remembers, Road Warrior,
The
but
Road
the
Warrior.
original Mad Max was,
Hmm.
yeah, it was Mad Max, then the Road Warrior. And then what was interesting was in Mad Max, he got to use his natural Australian accent in it, and they dubbed him over in Road Warrior because they were marketing it to a American audience.
Right.
The MCP is currently the AI for Google. I think you're correct, no way. I really do. Yeah, the master control program is now the Google AI that's gained sentience. Tron Legacy is
Yeah,
also good. Okay. I agree with you, but I don't know. I just kind of like the first movie, and to me, it ended there. But that's because I'm old, I guess. Black Hole was more like a mad scientist in the Castle B horror movie flick set in space. He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Yeah.
See, Goji here says the black hole moved a lot slower than Star Wars, and it had that Kubrick-esque ending. It just didn't work. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
If they had picked up the pacing a little bit more and gave it a decent ending, maybe it wouldn't have flopped like it did. There's some stuff going on here. Let's see what we got. Hello, Sister Ronald Flores. No Way Farm says the first Mad Max was disturbing. Yes, it was. I mean, his family got killed horribly.
Pretty violent.
Run over by a car. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Superman in 78 was very good. Correct. Go says, someone changed the channel from Godzilla to the NFL playoffs. My faith in humanity has once again been shattered. I'm going to have to shank someone.
Oh, Goji.
Calm down.
Don't. Be careful now.
Calm down.
We don't want to have to visit you in prison just
don't
because
shank
of a
somebody
kaiju
at work,
incident.
man. Think of your family. No Way Farm. Rolando saying hello to everyone. Nolan saying hello back. Blue Sasquatch. I just watched the trailer for the Black Hole and it looks awesome. Yeah.
Trailer was
great. It does. Yeah. I suggest you watch it. It's one of those movies that you must watch. So yes, Blue, go watch the movie, and then next time that you catch one of these restreams that you keep catching of us, maybe you can come into the restream chat and tell us what you thought about it.
Yeah, for Adam, I highly recommend this. This is called Superman 78, and it's a recent DC Comics graphic novel. It's pretty good, and it picks up very much a love letter to what Richard Donner was doing with the story, and the artwork is.
Well, I often wondered. We finally got the release of the Donner cut of Superman,
right?
Which is almost watchable because you have to suspend your disbelief in some of the scenes that were shot as test shots, but. Where was that going to go? What would Superman 3 have really been? Would that have been Superman versus Brainiac?
It was going to be Brainiac. That was what he had planned. That would have made a lot more sense. And apparently, studio shenanigans is what killed that. But this picks that up, as you can see, Brainiac's in the background here. He definitely prominently shows up in this, which is, I think, what the script of Superman 3 should have been.
Okay, now I know the cover artist is trying to mimic the actors. Did the interior art capture that as well?
Oh yeah. Let me see if I can show that here on camera. See if I can find a good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how well that's going to pick up, but that they definitely got the look there.
I'm gonna try to blow you up. Hold on just a second. Let me get you over here and blow it up next to me here.
Okay.
Move over.
Yeah, so there
we go.
There's Clark and Lois, and I think they did a pretty good likeness. I'll see if I can find a good Superman shot in here. Oh yeah, I mean that's Christopher Reeve. I mean they did a pretty good job of it, and you can see
very much so.
There's
the Brainiacs look like comic Brainiacs. Yeah.
And even old
Warman Cardboard says LED lighting costumes cost. Hang on for a second. Warman Cardboard says LED lighting costumes cost $80,000 each. NASA's redesigned spacesuit costed $100,000 each. No wonder the movie flopped. Too much money spent.
Is he talking about Tron?
I think so. Which Superman film was it where Superman loses his powers?
That was
Superman 2 when he went into the crystal chamber that shot the red sun energy on him so that he could go and have
live as a mortal man.
Whoopi, Whoopi with Lois without killing her. a la Man of Steel, Woman of Tissue, which I suggest everyone go and read when you get a chance. Largo. Do you read any of the Batman 66 comics? Yeah, those were good. I didn't get them.
I got them. Allred, who, the fellow who did the Madman comic books. They're really good. They're well written. Has that campy stuff.
Got a question. For you, Largo. So you're talking about Batman 66, the comic series. Did they at all address the different actresses playing Catwoman and the fact that one of them was Eartha Kitt and one of them was Julie Newmar?
I don't know that they have, but that doesn't mean that they haven't. I haven't read them all, but
it was funny. It was funny because they did those cartoon series where they had them all come back and play them again, and they even had William Shatner come in and play Two-Face in one of them. Mm-hmm. And there was at one point where somebody got clocked in the head. And when they looked up, they saw Catwoman standing there, and then she kind of went into three images, and you saw Julie Newmar and Eartha Kitt, and then in the middle was Lee Merriweather, and then she kind of merged back together again.
Back. Oh, yeah.
See what's No Way Farm says, off topic for 70s movies. I had the 1980s Hiss Tank, Water Moccasin, Snowcat. Can't remember the helicopter's name, but it was the Cobra one. Was that the Fang?
The Fang
helicopter. Yeah. In case you can't tell, I liked the baddies. Well, the baddies had cooler vehicles, I always thought,
and often better uniforms.
Black Hole is on Disney. I'm watching it now. Go for it, man. Must watch movie. It's that hard left. It's like they didn't have an ending for it, so they just made some shit up off the top of their head. Yeah. Batman 66 comics are pretty good. The first one I picked up was Batman 66 meets Man from Uncle. And he also met George Reeves' Superman in that, or was it Christopher Reeves' Superman? It was a crossover. Wonder Woman was in it too, right? Linda Carter's
there was
Wonder Woman was in crossed over.
Yeah, they did a crossover with Green Hornet. They did one with the Avengers, Emma Steele and Emma Peel and John Steed, the British Avengers. They did a crossover with them. What else have they done?
Blue's committed. Okay. No Way Farm says, don't do it, Blue. And Blue Sasquatch says, I'm doing it, No Way Farms. I'm doing it.
Yep.
Yeah, the Cobra Fang. Yeah. All right, so I guess we're getting to that point, man. We're clutching at straws. I'm about to fall out of my chair. I've got an unlit cigarette in my hand, knowing I have no reason to smoke this. It's just that time. Yeah, that's kind of what we're going to do here. Right. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. To say the very least,
everybody.
Yes. I've come close to the black hole. It's sucking me in now. All right, well, we'll see you on the other side there, Blue Sasquatch. I'll be the one in the Maximilian costume with my eyes peering out. You'll understand what I mean when you see the ending of that movie. All right, everybody. I'll have a good journey, and we'll see you next time on Weird Fantastic Toy Adventures.
Special thanks to these supporters on Patreon. Without your help, these adventures would not be possible. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's adventure, please hit like and subscribe and share the video.